Chapter 97. However, here, Pigeon still wanted to ask something. But suddenly the man sheep placed a hand on his shoulder. He shuddered all over and swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Last time, the man sheep had never touched Pigeon. What did this hand represent? Pigeon just felt that the hand exerted a slight force, as if it was hinting something to him. He looked up at the man sheep, only to find that the other party wasn't looking at him. Next, I'll introduce the rules of the game to you all, the man sheep said as it moved away from Pigeon. Next, I want each of you to tell a story about the last thing that happened before you came here. But note that among all the people telling stories, one person is lying. When everyone has finished telling their stories, the rules were exactly the same as last time. There was one and only one liar among all the people, and everyone needed to vote to choose. This game almost cost the lives of everyone who first arrived here on the spot. The man sheep handed the white paper in its hand to the 9 people present. Tija took the paper, and a glimmer of light flashed through his mind. It seemed that a sense of incongruity suddenly emerged in his heart again. Right at this moment, shouldn't there be someone asking the man sheep, "Can we discuss tactics?" But why didn't that person speak up? TXIA's pupils suddenly dilated a little. Yes, it was him. He had suddenly become taciturn in this experience. Previously, every time Kijal felt a sense of incongruity, it was because this person didn't speak up when he should have. All the questions he was supposed to ask before, he didn't ask any of them this time. Why didn't he have any questions? Tisha knew there was only one answer. That person didn't need to ask those questions anymore. He also had the memory of last time. Haija turned his head and stared at that burly man with a puzzled look on his face. Officer Lee. Officer Lee was knocking on the table with his fingers with a serious look on his face, as if he didn't care about anything. Since you all have no questions, now I'll start distributing the identity cards. The man sheep took out a stack of cards the size of playing cards from its pocket and walked to each person. Let me state in advance that if you draw the liar, you must tell a lie. Everyone received their own cards from the man sheep, and everyone's face didn't look good. Kaijo, during this period, intentionally or unintentionally looked at Officer Lee. Yes, he had changed. He didn't even rush to check his own identity. He also held his identity card with his palm and kept thinking about something in his mind. The situation was rather tricky now. If he rashly told everyone that this was the second time, probably no one would believe what he said. Instead, he would instantly become the target of public criticism at this time. After all, not everyone among the 9 people was extremely intelligent. As long as someone led the rhythm astray, the possibility of Pajot being voted out was very high. So this was not the best occasion to reveal his identity. Since he had to avoid arousing anyone's suspicion, Pajot had to lead everyone through these difficulties as before. He looked up at the surrounding walls and the ground. Just like last time, they were neatly divided into many squares by some lines. The game venue hadn't changed, and the game rules hadn't changed either. Well, let me say a few words. Dr. Zhao started speaking on his own without asking the man sheep for permission. Everyone turned their heads to look at him with suspicion on their faces at this moment. We're all meeting for the first time, and I don't know who you all are, but I suggest that the liar should come forward on their own in advance. Dr. Zhao said seriously. It's really too cruel to make the remaining 8 people intrigue against each other because of one person. Yes, Xiao Ran suddenly echoed. Whoever among you has drawn the liar should just admit it directly. Why make so many people risk their lives with you? Hijao gave a bitter smile and shook his head helplessly. The outlooks of these 2 people were very different from that of Officer Lee. The cards in their hands were clearly the liar, but at this moment, they suddenly stood on the moral high ground and started speaking. They didn't do this to make the liar come forward, but were eager to convey a wrong message to everyone that they weren't the liar. After all, in the normal way of thinking, the liar wouldn't ask the liar to come forward. Looking back at Officer Lee's remarks at that time, from beginning to end, He hoped that everyone would unite and not tell lies. Heeja originally thought that the people present wouldn't pay any attention to these two people at all, but unexpectedly, Yao Jiaoji, who was not far away beside him, had a hesitant look on his face. He picked up his card and looked at it for a long time, as if he had been making up his mind all the time. Heeja was stunned for a moment and instantly felt that something was wrong. Yes, Yao Jiajin was this kind of person. He was too naive. He would be bewitched by these two people. He didn't know that everyone's cards were all liar. He only knew that to follow morality, he didn't need to drag everyone down. So he might expose his identity at this time. Seeing him sigh deeply and just about to speak, Heeja quickly interrupted and asked the man sheep, "Hey, let's start telling stories. Who should start first?" Tiao Jiajin was startled, and the words that were on the tip of his tongue didn't come out. At this time, he became hesitant again. Human beings are such creatures. If a decision that has been made for a long time is suddenly interrupted, they have to make the decision again. Since everyone has no objections, this game officially begins. You'll be the first to tell your story. The man she pointed at Tiang Yan. Huh? Tiang Yan pursed her lips and then slowly told her story. Okay, well, my name is Jiang Jian. Technical worker. Zhang Qiang's whole narration was no different from before. If Quiche remembered correctly, there wasn't even a single word different. After she finished telling her story, Yao Jiajin naturally raised a question. He accused Yang Qian of using a fake name and should be regarded as lying. The two even had a big quarrel over this matter. Next, everyone told their stories one by one. Heeja was forced to pretend to listen carefully, although he had already heard these stories once. While listening to the stories, Heeja looked at the identity card in front of him again. On the back were written the 4 words, New War Game. He suddenly realized that he hadn't looked at his own identity since just now. If someone had noticed this point, it was very likely that they would point the finger at him. Thinking of this, Heeja's expression Leslie flipped over the identity card and took a quick glance. Seeing the words on the card, he was slightly stunned and then brought the card closer to himself. The next second, he felt a shudder all over his body and froze on the spot. There were no words liar written on the card at all. Instead, there was a rather inexplicable sentence. Don't tell anyone that you still remember. What? Heeja read this sentence carefully several times and then looked up at the man sheep. But the man sheep didn't pay any attention to him. Don't tell anyone that I still remember. Heeja lowered his head, rubbed his eyes, and the words on that card quietly changed again. It became liar,